Amanda Pickett.
I ask that we take a moment of quiet reflection for the lives lost last night at Michigan State University, the senseless murder of Tyree Nichols, and remember those that lost their lives 5 years ago today at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, fire evacuation announcements. There's double doors in the back. Go out the double doors down to the parking lot. Double doors to your right, my left, down the stairs and out to the parking lot. Before I call roll call, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. And thank you for being with us here on Valentine's Day. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mrs. Pickett?
Here.
Mr. Ryder?
Here.
Mr. Ungeier?
Here.
Mrs. Acree?
Here.
Dr. Kalnin?
Here.
Mrs. Cushman?
Here.
Mr. Hamry?
Here.
Mr. LeBlanc? Madam Chair.
Here. Before we move to item 6, I would just like to remind everyone that we are in a board meeting. I do not want to have to stop the meeting if there's any type of issues in the audience. So we have a busy night tonight with the budget and some policy discussions. So item 6, Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight we welcome Dr. Carrie Wiley, our Pre-K-12 Director of Innovation. Believe it or not, she's not the only person in the world with that title, but when somebody want to ask what that is, you're about to find out. I welcome Dr. Wiley as our guest tonight to sort of share some of the things that we're doing, not just necessarily with technology, but when Carrie and I first sat down and talked about where this vision needed to go for the district, it was like, we have a lot of stuff, especially coming out of COVID, but we don't necessarily, not everybody knows what we have and how to use it. So I know some of you went to some digital literacy nights that Dr. Wiley ran, but I'm kind of pushing her off, and so no big shoes to fill, Carrie. But we welcome Dr. Wiley. She can take you through a presentation on Apple Classroom and whatever else she's willing to do, because she is one of the smartest people I've ever met. Floor is yours.
Okay, is the mic on? Yes, okay. All right. Is the red button like? Yes. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. All right, no, it's there. All right, so hi, everybody. Carrie Wiley. I'm very excited to be here tonight to share information about Apple Classroom and its growing use across the district. We do have a video presentation, but before that gets started, I want to give a little bit of context. When considering all the technological tools that we have available and thinking about if there was any one that could be immediately impactful in any of our classrooms or grade levels, PK-12, Apple Classroom was the first that came to mind because of how simple it is to use and all of its capabilities. So with the support of our administrators, our department coordinators, and our ed tech team, I have started going into classrooms, and I personally have worked with a little over 50 educators at this point in their classrooms to get them started. But the best part about being in their classrooms is when they use it for the first time, they get so excited. The first thing they say is, I can't wait to share this with my colleagues. So even though I've worked with them directly, it doesn't necessarily represent the spread, because just between them working with each other and our other department coordinators and everything, it really goes way beyond that. So at this point in time, you're probably wondering, what is Apple Classroom and what does it do and how is it used, right? So here's where the video presentation comes in, and we have some reflections from teachers and students in order to show you all about what it is and how it's used, but also give you a little bit of insight in the immediate impact that it's having in our schools. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be here to answer your questions after.
Hi everyone, this is Carrie Wiley, and I'm excited to share today how Apple Classroom is being used as a tool for classroom management and instruction with our EPS iPads. Apple Classroom is an application that allows teachers to be able to view all the screens of the student iPads in the room on their own. Not only can they view the screens, but Apple Classroom also gives them the option to manage the iPads. For instance, they can open up an application on all the student iPads, or they can lock the screens if they choose. Apple Classroom is starting to be used at both the elementary and secondary levels in Enfield Public Schools. But rather than me explain how it's being used, let's hear from teachers themselves. We're going to start with a JFK teacher and hear how she's using it in her classroom in order to transform her instruction.
Hi, my name is Carrie Humber, and I teach 6th grade science at JFK. I love using the Classroom app, and for a couple of reasons, it has become a major part of my management style. First of all, it allows me to circulate throughout the room and monitor students at the same time. This allows me to stop and help an individual or a group with a certain task or concept, but still at a quick glance make sure that all students are where they need to be. Second of all, it allows me to quickly send students to a particular app, and if I would like to, I can lock them into that app, which ensures that students are working where they need to be. Lastly, I like this lock all screen feature, which allows me to lock all the student iPads in the room all at the same time. This allows students just to get a green screen, which brings down the level of distraction, bringing up the level of focus while I'm giving directions and/or demonstrations. I really feel that the Classroom app is a vital tool in this technological age.
Next, you'll hear from 2nd grade teachers and how not only have they found ways to use it as a classroom management tool, they've also quickly found ways to elevate their instruction.
Hi, my name is Sarah Kilty, and I am a 2nd grade teacher at Enfield Street School. And 2 ways that I have really loved to use Apple Classroom so far are during my WIN block. We have skills groups, and it helps me to monitor my students that are not at the table with me. So I'll send kids and they'll be doing centers, and some kids will be doing technology, and I just kind of put the Apple Classroom up so that I can monitor and make sure that they are on iReady and not you know, playing a math game or instead of reading or doing iReady like they're supposed to.
Hi, my name is Cameron. One thing I really like about Apple Classroom at Reading Win, our teacher can see if we're on iReady, and if we're not on iReady, she can tell if we're on iReady or not.
What I like about Apple Classroom is when we do iReady, if we're not doing the actual work, the teacher can remind us to go back onto iReady.
And then another thing is during math time, I used to use whiteboards a lot, and I like that Number Pieces app. So they would have like those two things kind of simultaneously going, so I could see the work that they were doing. But now I can just use the Apple Classroom. They can do their work right on the Number Pieces, and it's a really quick way of me identifying who needs help and you know, which child I need to go to. So those are 2 ways that I really enjoy using it.
I'm in 2nd grade and I like Apple Classroom because during math we can share our work and teachers can see.
I like Apple Classroom because I'd like to show my friends and everybody, because you can show it on the TV and I can show all my friends, and then I can help them by showing them.
One thing I like about Apple Classroom is when someone's having a hard time in math, she can show someone's screen who's doing really good, and it can help the other people.
Hi, my name is Amber Venusos. I am one of the 2nd grade teachers at Hazardville Memorial. One of the ways that I've used Apple Classroom recently with my students is to take problem-solving work that we've done in math that we would have previously done on a whiteboard or a piece of paper, and transformed our instruction a little bit to use the iPad and have the students create pictures and representations of how they're problem-solving on each of their individual devices. Apple Classroom allows me to share their individual screens really easily so that they can see each other's work. It has been really naturally engaging for all of the students because they're very excited to see their work show up on the big screen, and it has engaged students in a lot of extra discussion about different problem-solving strategies and things that we have come across.
Next, let's see what this actually looks like in action, thanks to Mrs. Tercasio's 2nd grade class at Enfield Street School. In the next few clips, you'll see how students are applying their knowledge of 3-digit numbers in order to compare them.
67 in pink.
Okay. How is that picture, Harper, going to help you figure out which number is bigger? Which painting had the more votes?
I can look at the hundreds, tens, and ones.
Let's see if I can find another, because I'm looking at Logan's, and Logan's board does not look anything like Harper's. Jackson, he did not draw a picture. What did he do?
Use numbers.
What kinds of numbers? Laura put it down. He used expanded form.
Great job.
The first arrow was pointing to the 7, and the next arrow was pointing to the 3. And then I realized that 7 is more than 3. So I knew that 467 is more than 463.
I like that I can see everybody's work and see how hard people are really working.
I like how we see my work because it makes me really proud.
When you see it on the screen.
Thanks for the opportunity to share how Apple Classroom is helping us as we make a difference in Enfield, every child, every day.
That's great.
So what I didn't want to talk about before is those second grade teachers. Well, one of the things I wanted you guys to see first, I showed them how to use Apple Classroom, but what was really neat is they instantly, in 3 different places, figured out automatically how it could be immediately impactful in mathematics, even without my help. Not saying even though math is my favorite in the world, but that's not to say, but it's not, that's just one example. It really can be impactful in any grade level, in any classroom, and with any subject. So, and it's one of the things that I'm hopeful you enjoyed the video, because you really have to be in a classroom to demonstrate it. The teachers' iPads are connected to the students' iPads, and it's really amazing to see. As soon as they say, all right, open up this application, it pops up, whatever it is, on all the screens across the room. So does anybody have any questions?
Ms. Pickett?
This is going to be a hard presentation to top, Dr. Wiley. Really nice job, demonstrating the intentional efforts of infusing technology purposefully to not only increase classroom management support, but instructional engagement. I think that is just such an innovative and need for the times of education that we're shifting in. So thank you for not only the work that you're doing, but your demonstration of that was just like perfect with the video. I think it also is a great way that you've demonstrated student and staff feedback in the process. So thank you for your efforts in that. I might be totally biased because one of those adorable faces were mine. And one of the amazing teachers on there is also my child's. And I know the hard work of the staff and their team efforts. When you mentioned the teachers like banding together and wanting to share with their colleagues, I know that's true. So thank you. A couple of things that I wanted just to touch on was also your demonstration of accessibility in the presentation with your subtitles. So those things matter. So thank you for demonstrating that as well. And I love the idea of how it's simple and easy for teachers to use. So I think some of my concern is that we're adding more things for staff to have to do. But the fact that the staff who demoed, like, oh, I can actually lock screens and it makes it easier for me to give whole class instructions and know that they're not being, or I can send them to the app that they're supposed to be on. So thank you for your intentional efforts, and thank you for your demonstration of the great work.
Mr. Hamry?
Yeah, Dr. Wiley, again, I'll echo what Ms. Pickett said, that thank you very much. Very, very good presentation on the technology implemented. So a couple of questions just for the sake of understanding how it impacts the larger, the entire population. Not all students learn the same. Technology will help, and some are going to be able to learn faster than others, even with technology. Can this be adapted for the student that has more challenges than others?
That's a great question. And really, the teacher's the one that can see all the screens on their iPad. So depending on what the application is or what their students are being asked to do, one way that we can vary our instruction is to give them different options of how they can show their work. But no matter what way they're using their iPad in order to do whatever assignment that they're trying to do, the teacher can see the screens. So the whole idea is that they can be over with a group in one part of the room, but they can still see the screens enough where they can get enough detail where, to be honest with you, you can really see, and if you can tell right away, ooh, I might need to go over and check in with so-and-so because maybe I need to help them out with this or give them a different option in order to show their understanding of something. So it's like another set of eyes in the classroom.
Does it allow the teacher to, I mean, if the teacher's looking at 13, 14 different screens at once and they don't catch something on one of them that is kind of important, can they go back to review what that student was doing at the time?
Great question. It doesn't record their screens, so it's just a live, live what's happening right now in that moment. And it's neat because it really, as soon as the student switches something, it instantly changes on the teachers too.
Okay.
But it doesn't record anything. What it does do at the end of the session is it shows the teacher which applications that the students used. Any of the applications that were used during that time, and it will show for each student and each application how long the application was being used for.
Okay.
So it can give an indication of whether or not, as the class is going on, if somebody was off task, they'll be able to know ahead of time, or they'll be able to know to talk to that child later and maybe say, all right, we really need to focus on this. I can see you were doing this instead. So it's definitely a management tool. It's definitely a tool that can help in that aspect, but it doesn't necessarily record the screens.
Okay.
So I hope I answered your question.
No, it does.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And one last question that I can think of at the moment. Is there anything that you would see as a downside to this? Is there something that would be either current day or down the road, something that we would want to anticipate that might be an issue in terms of, I don't know. It seems like a really good thing, and I'm an Android user myself, so I don't do a whole lot of Apple things. Sorry, Scott. But so I'm wondering if there's if there's a negative to it, because they do a lot of great stuff. I'm not going to lie, they do so much amazing technology and make it very user friendly and intuitive. So I'm just wondering if there might be anything that you could identify as a possible nothing. Then that's fine. If the answer is nothing, that's all good.
That's a great question. And I am trying really hard to think of something that could, but I mean, to be honest with you, it is a very simple tool, and it's a tool to be used right in the moment in the classroom. And in the beginning of it, it really is it was meant to help students make sure that they're doing what they should be doing during the time that you have them. So if you want them working in a Word document and writing a paper, that you can see that they're doing that, and you can see how they're doing all at the same time. But once we get beyond that aspect of it and students know that teachers have those eyes and they can see, then that's where it really goes beyond the management piece and where instruction comes into place. And that's where you could see, like in Mr. Cassio's room, it can get transformed from not just a management tool, but a tool that you can really efficiently and effectively share student work so that they can share their understandings, just like the students were saying in subjects. So I don't think I'm answering the question, what could be negative, but I'm still finding positives.
I'm just looking for the possible issues that may come up. If there's none to be had that you can identify right now, then that's probably a good thing.
As long as our Wi-Fi is working, as long as, those kinds of things, then it's going to be a tool that we can continue to use.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Ms. Cushman?
I did take the opportunity before tonight's meeting to look up Apple Classrooms online just to learn a little bit about it, but your presentation and video was much better done, and I appreciated getting to see our students and the staff, sharing about it, because technology is incredibly distracting, and so I can't even imagine what it must have been like for the teachers who had all these children with iPads without having that tool, and what a valuable tool it really seems to be. And I just also wanted to express my appreciation for you doing the digital citizenship with at the different schools and helping parents to be, just to understand more about internet safety and best practices and stuff. I appreciate that about you. Thank you for taking the time to do that with our families.
We'll continue to do that. And
please. Yeah.
Mr. Ongire?
Just quickly, so how long has it been implemented?
It technically has been available since the beginning of the year, but to be honest, it probably was one of our most underutilized applications. Okay. So it was one that I wanted to get out and everybody using it as fast as possible, because it really is something that is transformative in the classroom.
All right, and so it was a nice video, and I can see the value in it. But since we've had some time now to use it, are there any limitations with it or shortcomings with it that have been identified at all that you're aware of?
Limitations or shortcomings? I mean, other than the students, as soon as as soon as the students know that it's available and that it's being used, it's funny to see their reaction sometimes because they're like, oh, you know, like you can see my iPad, you know, but as soon as they realize that it's only during that class and only during that time, and they realize how important it can be for the teacher to help them, that's something that they easily, you know, move past. So, and I think they start to see the benefit of it as well. So, other than the students realizing that, yes, now not only, you know, she's my teacher is everywhere. And that's not really a shortcoming, is it? So.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Kalnin?
So just to ask the obvious, in the event that the system crashes, internet connection is lost, you have backup. You still have the whiteboards. And
Yes. Yeah. I mean, sometimes innovation is to actually go backwards. So do we want to be using the iPads for everything every day? No, it's great to get out those iPads. It's still important to get out the pencil and paper. But when teachers are using the iPads, this is a great tool for them to use in order to use it for a management tool. Definitely. Yep. So if we're worried about the technology and all that, I mean, technology can crash at any point in time, and then we'd always have to, you know, go back to that. So that could be a shortcoming for this. But as long as our technology is working, then it's a great tool for us to be able to use. Yep.
Mr. Ryder?
So that's actually what I was going to ask about. So you've had one-on-ones with approximately 50 educators so far, but do we, in your opinion, and anybody else's that may know, do we have the bandwidth to support this building-wide, let alone district-wide, per building, if everybody's on it?
You know what? I'm confident, but I will check and I will make sure because it's something. It's Bluetooth, so it's the proximity of the devices matters, and so I'm very confident that it will. But I will get back to you.
So because it's Bluetooth, you don't have to be on the same internet signal, although you are when you're all in the same classroom, you're all using the same signal. So because it's Bluetooth, it wouldn't work if you were teaching us and Amanda was homesick that day.
Exactly.
You couldn't see her screen.
Exactly. It's only for the.
I'm just saying.
It's only going to work for the students that are in the classroom with that teacher during that moment.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
So because it's Bluetooth, that doesn't.
Right.
The internet's irrelevant as long as everybody has the internet on their
And I know our
devices.
IT department is hard at work every day making sure that our internet is up to where it needs to be everywhere. So
I know it is in our two newest buildings because the buildings are new and all the infrastructure is new. But I'm concerned about some of the.
To be fair, when we started integrating iPads across the board, part of that investment was also increasing the bandwidth in every building. There is always going to be hiccups.
Yeah.
Is that a polite way of saying it?
Yeah.
But we're aware and constantly, like as Dr. Wiley said, our IT department is consistently putting out fires to make sure that the bandwidth does not get interrupted. But yes.
I'm 99% positive that it's going to work wonderfully, even if we were all using it at the same time. But I would always want to lean on that 1% and ask our ed tech and IT people upstairs.
Okay, I'll finish with some comments. First of all, I like that we've gotten some student-based feedback because I think that's important. But some of the things that I observed is that you'll have an element of student empowerment because if somebody's doing that lesson right, then they can share. And then one of the things that Ms. Kilty said that she can really identify if a student's struggling and she can go to that student, which I think is important because somebody might not want to raise their hand and say, I need help or I can't do this. So it actually could help the kids that aren't as willing to say that they're struggling. I think that it is beneficial all across the board, but I definitely see a benefit to math. Because it's all about strategies and students learning those strategies and learning math facts. And so I definitely see the benefit there. I don't like math either. I know, I'm sorry, Dr. Wiley, but I think that this is definitely a helpful tool for the students. And I wonder if I had anything else to say. I will say this. For the teachers that are using it, I appreciate the fact that they are able to keep an eye on everything that's going on while teaching the students and sitting with the students. Because I imagine that as easy as this task, or they made it seem. It's not easy, and I appreciate their hard work into this, and I'm excited that these teachers have an extra tool to help them. And I'll finish with my kids had Miss Kilty and Mr. Cassio, and they were awesome. So I appreciate your presentation. Yeah.
One quick thought.
Sure, Mr. Ongire?
Just one quick, and maybe you addressed it, but does security play a role in this? I mean, is there protection against potential people hacking in or anything like that? Is there any? Are you aware of any computer security that is
we have lots
guarding the classroom?
We have lots of things in place in terms of our internet safety. We have a lot of those things in place. The way that this works, though, the teacher is the only person that can connect to those students in that moment in time in that classroom.
Okay.
And that all works through PowerSchool and Apple School Manager, and there's a bunch of applications that talk to each other. But it ensures that in that classroom during that moment, the only person that can connect to the iPads in the room is the teacher that's there.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Hamry has one more question.
This is actually the only question I actually wrote down. I forgot to ask. And the question is, so you mentioned this is a rollout of the elementary and JFK levels. Any rollout to the high school, or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
I have been able to work mostly with the math department at the high school, but we also have a technology integration specialist at the high school. Her name's Julie Kunzelman. She does phenomenal work, and she's been working in all departments to spread this at the high school. So between her, the department coordinators, it's definitely something that's growing everywhere.
I had a particular person interested in to know if that was going to be coming to the high school, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Wiley, I just want to say I wish I had that.
Well, thank you. And just to go back to what you were saying, one of the things I was thinking about is our teachers really are like superheroes. They have all of these skills that they bring. It's like they already do have eyes all over the place. And with this, it's like, I don't know, Batman and all of his toys. It's like they've got a gadget that's making them their superpowers even better. So thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Madam Chair, just because I know he said he might be a little bit late, so can one of the 8 of you that are here remind Mr. LeBlanc, he raised an interesting question, I don't remember exactly when because it seems like forever, about, the iPads are great, but with this, I'm concerned about the amount of screen time, like it shouldn't just be a babysitter, and he was 100% right. We knew that, but it was at the point where we can articulate that, where, yes, it's a tool. It's not just we're going to throw a bunch of iPads in a class and tell the kids just, we'll see you in an hour. It's a tool, and it's a way that as Dr. Wiley articulated way better than I could have ever, that it's a way to increase not just engagement by our kids, but instruction. And I think it was important for people to see that at home who just might think, oh, they gave them a device and they're going to be just bumbling around on a game or an app for an hour and a half a day. That's not the case. So I want to thank Dr. Wiley for bringing this all to life. And this is something that's been ongoing and a passion of hers, but we needed to free her up to cut her loose to do this. And the sky's the limit as far as what she's able to lead us, the direction she's able to lead us going forward. So we're extremely lucky to have our own superhero in Dr. Wiley.
Thank you, Dr. Wiley.
Thank you very much. Good to see you all.
Item 7, Superintendent's Report.
Who wants to go first? Okay, Morgan. Seniority.
Hello there, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. So over the past week at the high school, we've had lots of things happen. Last week, the junior class attended a safe driving assembly that was sponsored by our school resource officers. We had a driving simulator to promote safe driving and the causes of distracted driving. We also had 2 students, their parents, and one of our gym teachers, Mr. Ramos. They are representing the entire state of Connecticut right now at Washington, D.C. with the Special Olympics at Capitol Hill Day. Every state from the United States will be there with some sort of representation. They are meeting with the House, the Senate, and elected officials to talk about ways and how we can innovate multiple different things into our teaching. Since this month is Black History Month, we are having student symposiums throughout this entire month, starting tomorrow. They start tomorrow the 15th, 16th, the 23rd, the 24th, and March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. If you are interested in signing up for these, check your email to see which one you are wanting to sign up for and sign up through Enriching Students. Students have put together presentations about Black history and many different topics. For students, we have no school Friday or Tuesday, 5-day weekend, or is it 5 days? Yeah, 5 days. For all of the juniors out there, it is that time of year for AP testing and the lovely SATs. Your SAT day is Friday, March 24th. Start studying. And we have 2 artists of the month for January, Daniel Cardona and Mabel Gray Ken, so congratulations.
Thank you, Morgan. Kayla?
Okay, so the National Honor Society is hosting a fundraiser at Standout Nutrition in Enfield on this Saturday, February 18th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. We will be raffling off 3 baskets, which are cozy, movie, and coffee themed, and all the money that is raised from the raffle baskets will be donated to the Warming Center, as well as a small portion of the money from the drinks made that day. The Enfield Instrumental Music Association is holding their annual Wolfpack fundraiser this Saturday, February 18th as well. Tickets will be sold for the game until this Friday, the 17th. If you would like to buy a ticket, you can contact an EMA member or an Enfield music student. Buzz Robotics is hosting a family paint night fundraiser on February 25th at 6 p.m. If you have any questions, you can contact Miss Marr at cmar@enfieldschools.org. And Buzz Robotics competition season is beginning March 3rd and will continue until April 8th. In the world of sports, boys basketball has their senior night this Friday, February 17th. The game is starting at 6:45 p.m. and will be held in the EHS Gymnasium against Hartford Public. And girls basketball had a successful senior night this past Thursday, the 9th, against South Windsor. Mason Pilkington this past Saturday received the title of the Double L State Champion for the 55-meter dash and track and field, and he will compete in the State Opens this Saturday, the 18th. Any athletes interested in joining spring sports can sign up on final forms. And there is an Enfield High hockey game tomorrow, the 15th, at Enfield Twin Rinks. And the game is against E.O. Smith, and the puck will drop at 3:45.
Thank you, Kayla. I just have to say, I have all these printouts, and I'm like going to be pulling them out from everything you guys reported, from Mr. Ramos to Mason Pilkington. You guys hit all those points, so thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Drezek.
Yeah, me too. No school for kids on Friday the 17th or Tuesday the 21st. Thanks, Morgan. But that's in order for staff to attend professional learning workshops. And also a reminder, all Enfield Public Schools and offices will be closed on Monday, February 20th for observation of President's Day. And 2 just quick updates for the board this evening. 1 is I sent something in writing. It was actually forwarded an email that I received from Representative Arnone last week about some legislative changes that took place last week that the governor signed off on. 2 important to note. 1 is that school lunches will now be covered for the remainder of this year by the state of Connecticut. So that doesn't take effect until March. So obviously my last update was that the Enfield Public Schools was covering free lunches for all students for the month of February. It appears as if that the state's going to pick up the bill beginning in March and continue through the remainder of this year only. We have been very clear at a meeting with the Speaker of the House that said do not expect that to be the norm for next school year, but for the remainder of this current school year, the state is going to pick up that obligation. In addition, the other piece of legislation that passed in there was also the state removing the cap on the excess cost funding for special ed special ed costs for local districts. So that might come into some of the discussion that you have later on in the budget. But I thought it was important to get out now to all parents, because they usually ask around this time, like, what's going on with lunches? Lunches are free for the rest of the year. And then whatever happens going forth next year, there's a lot of budget implications. But I would love to be able to feed kids forever, but I don't know if we necessarily have that option. So, and the second information is I was very fortunate, Mr. Long and I actually had our first student superintendent's advisory council meeting last night. So I want to thank the parents who did show. We invited about 30 of that 150 that originally was part of that list. We had a very good turnout, very robust conversation. Again, it's the first time, so you never know where things are going to go. Went a little longer than we had anticipated, that I promised. Mr. Long, you did a great job keeping time and reminding everybody we were past our hour-and-a-half time limit. But judging by the people who wanted to stay afterward and continue the conversation, as I told a few of the parents, this is one of the more enjoyable conversations I've had in quite some time. And one of the things that I wanted to commend them for was, even if there were differences of opinions, it was very respectful. People weren't talking over each other or at each other. They were, and most importantly, people were listening. So that was a very good model of the people who you may not see on a bi-weekly basis, but are out there taking care of their kids, paying attention to what's happening with their kids, and are very invested in what's happening with their kids. So I was very pleased with that, and we're hoping to start the next group of people in the coming weeks. But as you can tell, with all these other different events happening, calendars are very challenging. So there's a lot of people we need to get to. It's going to take some time, but I'm very pleased to report. And the feedback I've gotten this morning from the people who attended so far felt the same way. If some others didn't, they were very polite. They didn't tell me. So that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Drezek. Item 8, audiences. Okay, just a few things to note regarding audiences for this upcoming meeting. You must be an Enfield resident to participate in the audience portion of the meeting. We ask that you state your name and address. Board members cannot respond back to you during this portion of the meeting. Board members can respond during their board member comments if they choose to do so. We also cannot respond to student or personnel matters. We strongly ask that you refrain from personalities. We also strongly ask that you refrain from yelling out during audiences or board members during their comments. This evening, we will allow 4 minutes. Rob Anderson?
Hello. Rob Anderson, 34 Bass Drive. I'm here tonight to talk about the existing policies on school bullying, primarily focused on JFK. The existing policies are not working. I keep hearing from parents that the bullies are ignored. The person that's being bullied is blamed, and the teachers don't want to do anything because there's just too much work involved with it. I don't know, I don't have answers as to what to do about it. I just know that whatever's being done right now is not working. I went through the existing policy that you have. It's fairly confusing, but it's ineffective. Through the whole policy, it doesn't ever talk about the actual bully. It talks about the person being bullied. It talks about parents, teachers. It doesn't talk about the bully. I'm not going to go through the whole list and list everything out. It's pretty straightforward. It's just very confusing. With that said, the school shooters. 78% of school shooters had a history of suicide attempts or suicidal ideations prior to their attack. In regard to bullying, 87% of school shooters left behind evidence that they were victims of severe bullying. Pulled from stopbullying.gov. When adults respond quickly and consistently to bullying behavior, they send a message that it is not acceptable. Research shows that this can stop bullying behavior over a period of time. Bullying is a contributing factor to student suicide. It's not a reason for student suicide, but it's definitely a contributing factor. There needs to be a better way for the kids that are being bullied to be able to stand up for themselves. They need to be able to, without a huge paper trail of whatever, they need to be able to stand up for themselves without retaliation. And if a teacher sends a bully down to the principal's office or whatever, something needs to be done. They shouldn't just be sent back to the class with a slap on the hand. There should be something done. There should be things to make them uncomfortable. They should want to not have to have that, whatever that punishment is, they should have to not want to have that done.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Your time is up. Thank you. Lynn Kostick.
Good evening, Lynn Kostick, 13 Teach Street. I had kids that went through the school system, not from the early onset, but like from 6th grade on. And back in the days that my kids went to school, I've never seen a problem. I thought the schools were pretty good. What I'm disappointed in, I've been coming to these Board of Ed meetings now on and off for about 2 years. And what I've been really upset about is when the Democratic side of the House took majority and the Republicans got very upset, crap hit the fan. And it turned into a free-for-all in here. And it's because of people that were brought in by your side of the house. I'm so glad that it has calmed down a lot now to the point where we can focus back on the children again, because that's the main focus of the Board of Ed. It shouldn't have to be to curtail adult behavior. And I feel bad that we have 2 young adults or teenagers on the board that have to witness this on a consistent basis. What are we teaching them? We're the adults. Are we teaching them to go out there and say, well, if I don't get my way, I'm going to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da? It's just not right. So I just want to say is that for people that spoke here in the past and any people that want to speak in the future, you're an adult. Act like an adult. And respect each other's and each other's opinion. If you don't like it, you know, just keep your mouth shut, go home, you know? But, you know, to ridicule an adult either in here, out in the parking lot, on social media, I look at social media on a daily basis, and let me tell you, what I see out there after these Board of Ed meetings is just horrendous. It's terrible how adults are fighting against each other. It should not be. And I think the school systems, the children, children are innocent. As for LGBTQ, oh my God, kids don't care. They don't care if you're black, you're white, you're Hispanic. They don't care if you're gay or straight or if you're trans or not. Kids don't care. It's the adults that tell the kids how to think. And it should stop. You know who I'm talking to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kostick. Bill Delaney.
Madam Chair, I was under the assumption that we were having 5 minutes. I don't know if we can give 1 minute to people who... 4? Okay, I'll read fast. Good evening, board members, and happy Valentine's Day. My name is Bill Delaney, and I've been a social studies teacher at
Mr.
GF.
Delaney, if you could just give your name and address.
Oh, Bill Delaney. I live in South Windsor.
Right, but
I'm
you're a teacher, so you can
JFK,
use that
right?
address. Yep.
I'm also vice president of the Enfield Teachers Association. When I attended these meetings, I advocate for students and teachers, clarify misconceptions about the teaching profession and teachers' unions, and try to speak in a thoughtful way to find common ground in these unnecessarily politically charged meetings. Far too often in this room, and by extension, social media, our teachers, administrators, board members, central office staff, and even our students are attacked by people whose ambitions are not driven by the best interests of kids in Enfield, our students, but by political ideology and radical conspiracy theories which mock any sort of rational thought or reasoned judgment. Teachers, administrators, and community members pay close attention to this, Madam Chair, and we are grateful for your leadership. You have handled these meetings, some of which have gone sideways with bad behavior, with dignity and grace. You have built bridges with the minority party on the board and have established relationships with community members who do not agree with some of the decisions made here. The same goes for you, Mr. Drezek. Of course, we don't always agree, but you have faced the future of education in Enfield with courage, trust, and honesty. Even amongst the most virulent and, let's just say, off-kilter critics, you maintain professionalism and sustain expertise. Both of you are here for the right reasons, to promote the safety, general welfare, and education of the children of Enfield. So I come here tonight to give both of you a sincere thank you for your focus, your leadership, and for not getting distracted by those trying to malign your records, misrepresent your intentions, and impede the important work ahead. Board members, please don't take the bait. The attacks on our school system comes with from a small disgruntled political caucus that does not know the first thing about educating kids in 2023. They try to vilify us because they have indeed been indoctrinated to automatically oppose teachers' unions and the important work we do. They discount and disrespect educator and administrator professional knowledge and judgment. And their dim view of America conveys fear of the future progress toward a more inclusive country. This cuts against their idealized nostalgia, which romanticizes 1950s Americana. You know, back when things were great. This political or personal obsession to demean and discredit the superintendent and the chairwoman is being orchestrated by a former teacher for the Enfield Public Schools who claims to be an expert on education. He is unaware that this is not the same profession as the one from which he comfortably retired over a decade ago. His web of misinformation, whether it be purposeful or not, is hard to take. And the irony of this individual is so rich. He now tries to tear down the profession using his microphone and social media to rally against teacher tenure, ability to negotiate a contract in good faith, our working conditions, and teacher salaries. This individual reaped the rewards from all of these things. But now, according to him, teachers don't deserve any of it. And unfortunately, he is trying to indoctrinate some of you to his viewpoint, even going so far as saying that he no longer wants to hear what is going on in the schools at Board of Education meetings. He is a former teacher and a former Board of Ed member, and he doesn't want to hear about what's going on in the schools. Also, do not be influenced by the brave YouTubers who are trying their hand at teaching remotely in what can only be described as a bad Saturday Night Live sketch. This bunch will say anything, but truth and civility are not part of the narrative. Members of this board, this phony outrage is not about kids. It's about grievance, political extremism, and control. Please don't allow this to affect your judgment on what is truly important: our schools, the people who inhabit them every day, and how best to serve student needs. Vote for this budget.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Peter Janitis.
Peter Janitis, 3 Farmstead Circle. I hope that last tirade wasn't about me, but it sounded like that's what it was intended for. And I do care about the kids. I really do. And I care what the boards of ed do year after year. Okay, first, dealing with one of the policies. Oh, first of all, happy Valentine's Day to all the ladies up there. First, about one of the board policies I think you'll be voting on tonight. Quote, since the board meetings are held to conduct the board's business in public and not meetings with the public, end quote. Since you're holding your meetings in public and the public is here, the public should have a right to speak, whether or not it is here to praise you, to praise the board, or to state some discontent with the board. I think the public deserves that right. Further, quote, the chair, acting on behalf of the board, has the right to limit the overall length of time devoted to the audience participation and/or the length of time individuals may spend when addressing the board. Please, I just beg you, set a fixed time. 4 minutes is comfortable. Set a fixed time. It should be consistent for each meeting. This should be a decision for the entire board, not one individual. And I'm not singling you just out. It could be the next board chairman or whatever. It should be a decision for the entire board to make. Next time you're in an executive session, talk it over, vote on it, and then set that time period. If you're going to fix time for the public, then I'd say fix the same time for board comments. Secondly, quote, this is from a letter from Mr. Drezik to someone down in the state. Quote, as the new Alliance district with nearly 54% of our students considered high needs. If we have 54% with high needs, how about the other kids that have needs? That means the number's got to be much more than 54%. Go back to quote. Growing English learners, special education populations, and the opening challenge of combating pandemic-induced learning loss. It is getting harder and harder to support our students without additional resources. And I am attesting before that yada, 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 to address the learning and social and emotional needs. If it's money that you're looking for, I'm telling you, money doesn't make for good education. It's the good teachers in the classroom. It's a good board of education. That's where the education is going to be good. I would say it's time maybe to revamp some of our curriculum and scheduling. And I would definitely urge you, as I have in the past, bring back those modified classes. Those are the kids who need the most help. Keep them in a class where they're basically all working together and the teacher can meet all their needs rather than jumping all over a classroom. As far as study halls from the superintendent's last report last week, I just think you need study halls. Every kid doesn't have to go to a study hall, but you have athletes who have a limited amount of time, and they could use the time to get their work done in school. It's a good opportunity for some students to work with other students or be in a room where there are teachers in the study hall that can help. The board chair tonight just made a comment earlier tonight. I need help. I don't know how to do this. Well, if some of these kids are in a study hall, maybe they can get that question answered. So I would bring back study halls. As far as bullying, bullying's a tough one. I always found when I taught, between boys it was pretty easy. You went in the hallway, you talked with each other, and if that didn't work, meet behind the hockey rink. I never saw them go behind the hockey rink. Girls, that's another question. It's tough with girls. I don't know what the answer to that is. Thank you.
That's your time. Thank you, Mr. Janitis. Liz Davis?
Good evening. My name's Liz Davis, and I reside at 201 North Maple Street. First off, I want to say Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And then second, I would like to remind everybody, first off, being a mom of a child that goes to the public school, one of the biggest thing that I'd say meant the world to me, right from kindergarten, with Mrs. Dupierre. When we brought our daughter, you know your child is the most important thing to you, right? They're your world. And you're petrified to drop that child off that first day. Geez, even when she's a senior, you're still. But the one thing Mrs. Dupierre said, you know, and then Mrs. Boffey and Mrs. LaJoy and every teacher is, you know, these are my children. I put my life before theirs. Your child's safe with me. So, as a mom, you can breathe a little, like, okay, they understand what the child means. So I'd like to remind everybody, as I said before about our amazing superintendent, we finally have a superintendent that those words came out of their mouth. These are my children. And I thank you for that. Let's remember, because of him saying those words, when people attacked and wanted to unmask our children, endanger them, he put his whole career on the line. That supports his family and everybody. Why? Because these are his children too. And as you and I would do, you and I, any of us, put our career on the line for our kids any given day. So thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for treating our kids as your own. I appreciate it, and so has every other parent that has talked to me. So with my remaining time, I'm going to try to cover a few things here. The radical right ideology are being injected into our schools. Don't believe me? Just look back at our meetings. Let's just take the last 2 years, okay? I recommend using the town page and their YouTube page. At least this way you know it's not altered and it's facts. It's legit, okay? So it's all clear as day. You will notice it's all about their way of life or what their beliefs are, just like wanting to keep prayers in the meeting for one belief when we have many. Lies, lies, lies. Hello, isn't that indoctrination of our children? The best thing you can do is educate yourself. Research for yourself. They're counting on that we are poorly educated and that we would really not understand and hoping we don't understand the definition of CRT, woke, socialism, so many other things they want to throw. They're trying to ban diversity and inclusion. Republicans are saying that diversity is what divides us. Give me a break. Diversity, inclusion is what brings people together, helps us understand each other, helps us understand our differences in cultures, lifestyle, differences so we can all understand each other, coexist with each other with love, compassion, and empathy. This is what the right is trying to stop: love, compassion, empathy. You want to know why? If they divide and conquer, they regain control and power. That's the bottom line. It's politics, not our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. The audience portion of our meeting is now closed. We're moving on to number 9, board member comments. Ms. Acree.
Good evening, everyone. I had the pleasure of visiting Prudence Crandall School since our last board meeting, and I just want to share some thoughts with everyone. During my tour, I was very impressed with the staff and students at the Crandall School. I feel that Crandall is a school that has great leadership, a caring, supportive, and knowledgeable teachers. I observed that the students were engaged in their lessons, working very hard towards their goals and objectives. I noted that Crandall also has wonderful programs and interventions and services that promote successful, productive, and a healthy learning environment for the students. So I would like to say kudos to all the administration there, the teachers, and the staff. I also attended the Crandall Winter Concert featuring the chorus, band, and the string ensembles. The children's voices were lovely and their performance was wonderful. The band and string ensembles also did a fantastic job playing their instruments. Congratulations to Melissa Clark, Mr. Eric Spaldi, and accompanist Elizabeth Tomzik for their hard work and preparation for a fine concert. I also would like to share from the desk of Mr. DePere things that are happening at the school. I know, it was like, it's not like, sorry everyone. Mr. DePere says, we had over 125 students attend the literacy and numeracy night. Parents and students were able to take part in some reading and math activities and enjoy some hot chocolate that night. As a school, I think this is very important to hear, we are seeing a steady increase towards our targeted annual growth in both math and reading. Teachers are analyzing student results and developing targeted lessons to address the student weaknesses. The 5th grade committee is looking for volunteers, so if you are a parent of a 5th grade student and want to help plan the end of the year celebrations, please contact the PTO president, Jen Wheeler, or the principal, Mr. DePere. And then he ends with, we have a virtual PTO meeting on Thursday at 6:30. Thank you.
Ms. Acree, I just have to say thank you so much. I'm glad you got your visit in with Prudence Crandall because we spoke about it and it happened before I could blink my eyes, so I appreciate that. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Dr. Kelman?
Currently, excuse me, currently KITE is in the process of updating the community plan for children from birth to 8 years of age. This project is being facilitated by Dave Bechtel, who has worked with KITE for many years on similar initiatives. Currently, a number of focus groups involving community stakeholders are being held, and a report will be generated later this year. KITE will be working with the Gesell Institute on an initiative to coach Enfield kindergarten teachers in becoming more intentional in formulating inquiry-based classroom strategies. aligning with learning mandates. Classroom observation will be direct as well as by video recording. Feedback to the teachers will be provided both in person and virtually, and this will hopefully lead to a structure for future kindergarten teachers to utilize in their work with their students. One of the most undervalued groups of professionals is that of the early educator. At the very least, they should be provided with a platform on which they can discuss challenges and share ideas related to their work. This was one of the ideas discussed at a Dine and Discuss meeting recently sponsored by Kite. A follow-up dinner on February the 2nd focused on how this platform can be developed, and Kite will devote a page on its website to address this need. An exciting new committee has been added to the Kite structure, the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Committee. About time. The committee held its first meeting on February 9th, at which time a brainstorming session was held to discuss challenges and opportunities relating to infant and early childhood mental health in our community and resources we have or need to address them. The committee is chaired by Ruth Sales, and its next meeting will be held in April. The date has yet to be announced. Pre-kindergartners will shortly be visiting residents of Mark Twain Congregate Housing. The plan is to make such visits a monthly affair, and it's designed to bring people of different generations together. Regarding the community conversation, the Stowe Head Start focus group will meet on February 28th. The committee organizing the Heritage Fair is looking for presenters, food vendors, and displayers, I think especially food vendors. The fair will be held at JFK Middle School on February 25th from 11:30 to 4. Please go to the Kite website for further information, enfieldkite.org. In terms of its website, Kite was 202% over its goal with 9.4 thousand reach. Kite received its second quarter check from the town of Enfield and will apply for the social services grant for financial year 23-24 due on February 23rd. The Sparkler Initiative continues to make good progress. In January alone, 31 children participated in developmental and social emotional screening. The FRC and the Food Shelf worked together to hold a Sparkler party to help parents to use the app to complete a developmental and a social emotional screen. The PLA retreat was held on February 4th and was followed by the first class of the year on February 9th. Kite leadership has developed a slideshow to orient new members on the history, the philosophy, and the operations of the organization. A brief presentation was given at the February 1st Kite meeting. People empowering people is still encountering some challenges. It's still looking for a Spanish-speaking person to be trained as a facilitator. This is really holding things up quite a bit for people empowering people. So please contact Enfield Kite or the Enfield Public Schools if you feel you can help and you need further information. First Readers will be holding a trivia night event on February 25th. So if you want to show off your expertise about the 80s and the 90s, you can purchase tickets at www.firstreaders.org. The First Readers Ceremony of the Year, the first Readers Ceremony of the Year, will be held on March 6th at 5 o'clock, excuse me, in the JFK Auditorium. Rocking Chair Readers was launched at Stowe earlier this month. At each such event, a senior citizen spends half an hour reading to children. And again, the purpose of this initiative is to bring generations together. With respect to Head Start, the Policy Committee convened on February 3rd for its monthly meeting. The annual vote on selection criteria was taken and passed. And I just wanted to review this because it's really important. Applicants are prioritized according to community needs, which in turn are determined by the Community Needs Assessment. And specifically, these are family income, homelessness, foster care, child's age, eligibility for special education and related services, and early intervention services. Head Start cannot deny eligibility because of a disability or a chronic health condition. At least 10% of total funded enrollment must be filled by children eligible for services under IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act. And these children should be prioritized for eligible slots. A waiting list must be maintained and will prioritize children according to need. And that's really important to keep in mind. If you're told your child has to go on the waiting list, it doesn't mean that you're heading all the way to the end of the list. The Head Start prioritizes children with the greatest needs, so they will be considered, they will be brought up closer to the beginning of the line. So don't be discouraged. If you really feel there's a need, that your child has a compelling need, then by all means get on that waiting list, because it doesn't necessarily imply that you're going to be at the end of the list. The 2023 recruitment plan, COVID mitigation policy, and personnel update were also voted on and accepted. With regard to the last of these, Morgan Beaulieu was accepted as a part-time substitute family advocate, so congratulations to Morgan. With respect to the curriculum, the children are still on Unit 2, buildings, and they most recently investigated windmills and are now moving on to the properties and functions of balls. Second step, Unit 4 focuses on friendship skills and problem solving. 2 family engagement updates. 1, an evening family educator organization meeting entitled Apps and Chaps will be held on the evening of March 14th, and the format will be casual. 61 Stowe families attended the Stowe Science Night, held at the school in partnership with the Connecticut Science Center, and the turnout was amazing, with an audience of over 200 people. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Kalnin. Ms. Cushman?
Well, I think we're all looking forward to the first readers and the Heritage Fair. That seems to be something I think that we all were expecting to talk about tonight. But the first readers trivia night is really their main and primary fundraiser. So we do hope that many from the community show up to support that. And just considering the policy that was spoken up on bullying, we do have a meeting next week, and we'll be, I'll certainly be rereading that policy, although I know it was recently updated, and just start a conversation within our policy committee about that. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Ms. Cushman. Mr. Hamry?
Thank you very much. So we'll start off with the JFK updates, and for the updates there. Last week of Kindness fundraiser happening this week. Registration is still open and will be open through Thursday, February 16th. Check your monthly newsletter for curriculum updates and important upcoming dates. The program of studies, this is just my own little note. I hope that all the families at JFK that had the opportunity to attend the program of studies at Enfield High were able to get a grasp of the immense amount of programming and educational materials, extracurriculars, everything that there is to take in. It's an enormous amount, and it's overwhelming from my perspective. So I can imagine what it would be for a eighth grader, who's considering all those options, and the families that are helping them make those decisions. So I want to throw out a shout out to the Enfield High Wrestling for medaling in their recent competitions. And unlike the Scooby-Doo thing where it's always those medaling kids, now these kids got medals in their recent thank you. They got medals in their recent contest. I worked hard on that one. So shout out to Ethan Bonaducci, Caden McBride, Jacob Beeler, and I'm going to pronounce. Crawford. Thank you, Keontae Crawford. Well done on those contests. I work hard on these jokes, people. So I do want to take a moment to speak to a couple of the audience members tonight. And in that, I'm going to make a personal statement. This position I've been in for a little bit over a year, and I hope that I'm doing it well to the liking of everybody that is affected by this position. It is not without its struggles. And I will be the first to admit that. This position as a board member is as complicated as it needs to be, as it should be, but it's not complicated when you do it the right way. When you do it with the intentions in mind to do the best for the district, best for the families, best for the students, best for everybody that's involved in bringing the best to our students. So, having said that, I've missed some events recently, some of the musical performances at the middle school and at the high school. I've missed a lot of things. And I will be the first to say that every once in a while you hit that point where your mental bandwidth just shuts down. That happens. It's happened a couple of times recently, and I can tell you, guaranteed it's going to happen again, because there's a lot of things going on that people don't know about and won't see because it doesn't affect them. And they have no business knowing, frankly. So, the mental health of our students, of our administration, of our teachers, of our families, of our board matters. And I implore everybody that's affected by their everyday pace to get the help when they need it, frankly, before they need it, so that they can continue to achieve everything that they want to achieve. Back to the comments earlier, I do take note of, and I apologize, I should know the name. Mr. Delaney, thank you. Your comments were not lost, and it is an ironic thing to have a former Board of Ed member telling this board, this current board, the way things are done. We as a board, speaking only as myself and as a member of this current board, we have an obligation to understand our roles and our responsibilities. We have an obligation to understand policies and what the words of those policies mean. It's misleading at best to hear some of the things that I've heard. And discouraging might be the intention, to discourage people from understanding the way this policy, this board operates and what its intentions and directives are. But it's very important to understand that there is some misleading information being propagated, and I would just ask that anybody that's got questions, concerns, interests to learn a little more about that, to reach out and ask any questions. I would be welcome to have those conversations, and I appreciate the time. Thank you very much. And again, please get help if you need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamry. Mr. LeBlanc?
To touch on something Dr. Callan already brought up, but the focus group of Kite, which was held last night, it was, like he said, with Dave, Michelle Middleton was there, Altreza, our equity director, and Brianna Beckstrand kind of was the one to head it all up and put the group together. Some important topics that were discussed that night or last night obviously relates back to early learning, early childhood, and young families. And we discussed issues that strictly affected Enfield, and granted, I think they also touch upon issues outside the community, but we were really focused on what we could, addressing the problems of what in particular affects Enfield, and talk about solutions moving forward. And there's two things that stood out to me within our time together. One was, how do we outreach to families who aren't necessarily already in our public school systems, but are going to be in our schools in the next year, 2, 3 years? We do such a great job of connecting to families and our students that are already in our school system, but we have families and children that aren't necessarily attached yet to our schools, but will be someday. So just kind of branching out and getting in touch with those families to feed them the information that students in our school system may be receiving. It may make for a good filter once those families who aren't in the school systems yet get into our schools. Another one, and I'm going to sound like Dr. Callan with his past board member comments, but the pediatricians, for sure, it really opened my eyes. Dr. Callan speaks of it highly at all our meetings, but being in a tight-knit group like it was last night, I really got an appreciation for how pediatricians could relate to families and the connections that they have. So I think there's a focus there to connect with them and have them connect to their families. And Dr. Calnan in our conversation after the meeting brought up a great point where, well, the question, before I get there, the question was asked, well, how many young children don't have a doctor? And the answer is not very many. Most young families and children have a pediatrician that they rely on. And Dr. Calnan brought up a great point that those families really entrust their doctors when it comes to information. So just tying it all together of how we can get pediatricians to connect to the community programs that we have that then connects to helping those families that they see, and just tying it all together to have that outreach there as well. I just thought it was honestly probably one of the best conversations I've had so far this term on the Board of Ed, and I think it's going to eventually go places, and I'm sure there's definitely more to come after they initiate their focus groups and then take what they learn from the focus groups and try to come up with solutions. That's it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Ms. Pickett?
Making some minor adjustments. So I'm gonna start with the theme of STOW, since that's where I think where the last few comments were. And I'm surprised neither of you have shared this. The application for the 2023-2024 preschool application is open for Head Start, Integrated, and STEAM. And I share that because, to your point, John, about how do families who aren't part of our district or part of our school system already know. And I can't tell you how many families that I chat with that don't realize the amazing preschool programs that we have available. And so I'm always quick to be like, oh, Stowe, it's the most amazing place. Go check out their website. But that application is open for families, and you can find out all about that at enfieldschools.org and clicking on the Stowe Early Learning Center application. Enfield Street School, I want to take a moment to really thank our PTO. Last Friday, our PTO hosted a special Someone Dance at the high school, and I believe over 300 folks registered. And I think, if anything, that demonstrates that families are craving engagement, craving these opportunities. I will tell you, as a mom, I think I was way more excited than my children, but in the car ride home, both of them were like, that was the best night ever. So thank you for the PTO. Everything was really incredibly thoughtfully done. There was like there was a photo booth, an official photo booth, but like lots of little places to take pictures. An amazing DJ who had all those kids moving all night long. And mainly sleeping when they got home. There was treats and food and like just such greatness. And I think, as a parent, to see my little one's friends, to meet families that I hadn't met before, I just really appreciated that opportunity. So thank you to the PTO. And I believe their next meeting is March 8th. I encourage families to support the work that they're doing, because they're really trying hard to get families and school activities together. Again, at Enfield Street, this week is Kindness Week with some school spirit happening. So tomorrow is school colors or school gear, and Thursday is Pajama Day. And February 23rd, there is a fundraiser at Jersey Mike. Anybody can go. You don't have to be an Enfield Street family only to enjoy that fundraiser. So please, we actually make, and I'm sure other folks could share from their PTOs, we make a pretty good turnaround on those, like partnering with the restaurant fundraisers. So Jersey Mike's, put it on your calendar, 2/23. A couple other things that I just want to acknowledge. One is tomorrow night, Opera House Players and Enfield Congregational Church is doing a Black History Month concert at 7 p.m. It seems like it's being locally directed by Maya from Enfield Loaves of Fishes and featuring local artists. And I think that's just such an amazing way to honor this special month. And with that, again, Black History Month this month, there's great resources available. I know on our equity tab on our website, there's some resources. If you have Netflix, Who We Are is a great recommendation, and our National Museum of African American History and Culture also has great resources. So please consider checking those out.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Mr. Ungeyer?
So I'd like to first recognize Hazardville Memorial Principal Lisa Hunter, who thoughtfully provided the goings-on, the latest information at Hazardville Memorial School, dealing primarily with Valentine's Day, which happens to be today. So she said that at Hazardville Memorial, there were some 300 Valentine's cards that went out to the soldiers at the Veterans Home and Hospital in Rocky Hill. And Hazardville Memorial wants to thank Mrs. Wilcox for bringing this service project to Hazardville Memorial again this year. So it's very nice that that went out. And then during pause time on Thursday, this last Thursday, the students listened to a book called The Smallest Girl in the Smallest Grade. It's written by Justin Roberts and read by second grade teacher at Hazardville Memorial School, April Smith. And then everyone who heard it was challenged to give out 5 heart stickers to members of the Hazardville Memorial community. And there were hearts everywhere at Hazardville Memorial School. So I just wanted to pass that along and what's been going on at Hazardville Memorial. So thank you, Principal Hunter, for that. I want to make mention of Rob Anderson, who spoke here about what he perceives to be the ineffectiveness of the bullying policy that we have. And so I know, Ms. Cushman, that you addressed this, you being a member of the policy committee, but I'd like to just challenge the entire policy committee to take a look at that. If there is a gap that doesn't hold bullies accountable, then I think that should be addressed. And, you know, perhaps something like a probation plan or something, then I think we should look at that. And if it is ineffective, then what could we do to make it more effective? I know that no one who sits on this board supports bullying in any way, shape, manner, form. So I'd like to see us take a closer look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ungary. Mr. Ryder?
I want to catch everybody up on all the goings-on at Eli Whitney. The third grade team at Eli Whitney has developed a partnership recently with Buddy Bison Project through our National Park Trust. They'll be sponsoring several field trips connected to the third grade curriculum goals. The first experience was an in-school field trip by the Nawashi Village, and that occurred on January 26th to connect to the study of the indigenous people of Connecticut specifically. February is a very busy month at Eli Whitney. It's also Fluency February. Our students have been hard at work, focusing on improving fluency in both reading and their math facts. On February 1st, we had World Read Aloud Day at Eli Whitney. We had many guest readers come in and read to our classes. We had parents, Enfield firefighters, Enfield police officers, our superintendent, our town's mayor, and our Board of Education's vice chair. We also had the Enfield Food Shelf boat is currently at Eli Whitney this month, collecting non-perishable donations for the end of the month, so please send in your non-perishable donations by February 28th. Fifth graders are heading off to JFK on Thursday morning for the JFK Middle School Music Assembly, followed by a tour of the new music department. So Miss Acree, if you want to go with them, we'll get your bracelet, get your pass. We also have an author visit coming up at Eli Whitney on Wednesday and Thursday of next week to tie into Black History Month. A local author, Richard Anderson, will be spending time sharing his book, A Home Run for Bunny, with students to lead them in dialogue about inclusion and diversity and discussing what character traits it takes to be an upstanding individual. He will challenge our students to use critical thinking skills and reflect on how they relate to the theme of the story. And this Thursday is the last day if you'd like to pre-purchase a signed copy of his book. Our students are currently participating in a kindness challenge. Staff are watching for students who are being caught being kind for a chance to win a Whitney Wolf Build the Mascot kit to stuff at our upcoming event on Thursday, February 23rd. There will be one wolf awarded per grade level. The Eli Whitney PTO meeting is tomorrow night in person at 5:30 in the Whitney Library. And we'd like to thank our Enfield Police and Hazard Fire Departments for bringing our weekly lunchtime mentors. Also coming up, Eli Whitney will be partnering with Links to Libraries with our new sponsor, LEGO, who will facilitate classroom mentor readings of new mentor text and applied LEGO activities. And of course, please check all Whitney weekly newsletters posted on enfieldpto.com/Whitney for upcoming important school dates. We also have some end of school year activity dates that are already official, weather cooperating. And I apologize, I missed the last meeting. I was traveling for work. But I was able to watch online, and that was enjoyable, always to spend time with you guys virtually. So thank you. That's all I have for this week.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. So my list got considerably smaller this evening. I will just follow up with a couple. I did plan on speaking to Mason Pilkington tonight. As I think it was Morgan, you had spoke of Mason, or it was Kayla. He is the Class L 55 meter state champion for EHS. He ties the Class L record, earned an all-state title, and lowers his school record all in one. He'll compete in New England's, and then he will competing in the Nationals. I'd like to send out a special congratulations to Mason. I know him and his family well. They're very proud. Thank you for also mentioning Mr. Ramos and him going down to Washington, D.C. I'd love to get an update from Mr. Ramos when he gets back. He's a huge champion for United Sports, and he's come before this board many times. And when he comes before this board, he just absolutely loves what he does. And he's doing an amazing job. And I also love the fact that we're getting United Sound in too. So I just think we're going in really good directions for Enfield Public Schools. So I can move on. I have updates that people don't have. The EHS Safe Grad Committee is putting on an 80s dance. Come out and celebrate this totally tubular decade with a night full of 80s music and dancing. Prizes for best dressed, 50-50 raffle, $25 for one ticket, $40 for two. You can use PayPal, Venmo, or credit cards. Purchase at enfieldpto.com. /safegrad. And I think, did I say it's Saturday, March 18th at the American Legion. School lunch is gone. The other thing for SafeGrad is they will be doing another can and bottle and clothing drive in the spring, so save your donations now. SafeGrad is just 4 months away. Can you girls believe it? 4 months away, you're going to be graduating. Anyone interested in making a donation to our seniors, please reach out to ehssafegrad2023@gmail.com. Going. Okay, we talked about standout. Okay, I received a message from Miss Trish Berry about something called Build a Prom for Everyone. It's a collection and distribution of prom dresses and suits. With inflation affecting more families than ever, many teens will not be able to attend prom simply because they have nothing to wear or because they didn't have a choice in what to wear. The Stack Group and Opera House players are teaming up to give access to a formal wear this prom season by giving teens an opportunity to choose a dress or suit that they love. They can have the same try-on experience as their peers and pick something that they are proud of. What they're looking is for donations. You can donate gowns, tuxes and suits, shoes, accessories, handbags, or gift cards. The gift cards would be handed out to help with tux rentals and more. All monetary donations will benefit students attending the prom. You can donate from February 3rd to March 3rd. Donations can be dropped off Thursday and Sunday evenings at Opera House Players, 100 High Street in Enfield from 7 to 9. Or you can contact Sarah Rose, SARHROSE at thestackgroup.com to coordinate drop-off. So I think I appreciate these doing this. We used to have something in Enfield called Proms for Less that was kind of the same idea, but I think it's helpful. So I'll be looking to see if we have any prom dresses or suit type items to donate, or I'll be donating a gift card for that. I just wanted to mention a couple of other things. At Enfield High, I guess I'm speaking to the parents on this one. There's a lot of driving issues. And it's not from the students, it's from the actual parents. There's cars going through bus lights, driving over medians, and speeding. That's unacceptable, right? If we were parents and we saw our kids driving like that, we would not appreciate that. I think it's hard to have your staff out there and have to pull somebody over and tell them not to do that. I didn't know if there was a way to have SROs or there was something additional, because it seems like it's getting worse and worse, and I don't want an accident to happen. So I just kind of wanted to address that I think it's getting dangerous, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. But I know that people work and they have places to go in the morning, but safety is first, and those bus lights are out for a reason. And a couple weeks ago, I saw somebody in the snow pull out in front of a bus, and I gasped because I couldn't believe it. So I just want to say that about Enfield High. Please take your time. The bus lights are there for a reason. Medians are not to be driven over. And I'm not saying this to the students. I'm saying this to the parents. Please be careful.
I'm sorry, it's not my time. Can I just add something since it's a PSA?
Sure.
If anybody wants to drive down Enfield Street between 2:45 and 3:35 every day, you can hear the horns from the buses honking at cars blowing through bus signs. So if we're going to be on this subject of safety around our kids, there's a stop sign on that bus for a reason. That means that's where kids are getting off. Police have done a great job. They come and they park out in front of her and try to catch people, but it happens every day. And Kath, we know when to look. It's like an orchestra of horns coming from the buses every day at the same time. So
right.
Sorry.
No, and to your point, if somebody sees a cop there, they're not going to do it. But then if there is no cop there, they're going to do it. But the fact that people are driving over medians at Enfield High, and we have a lot of drivers at Enfield High because you have staff and you have students and you have bus drivers. So let's remember that, because we would not be happy if it was our kids driving that way. I also wanted to mention that we had our CREC equity meeting. Altressa had us meet with or get presented what we're doing with equity. It was a great presentation by the CREC speakers. I do have to say, I just want to get to my notes for that. One of the things that CREC, Altressa is focusing on with the CREC Equity Group is that they're looking for family engagement, and they're looking for family engagement from pre-K through 12. So they're identifying, principals would be working to identify parents to come. I think Enfield High had their first meeting. Collaboration is important, and the parent groups are intentional. What I like to hear from Altressa is that this work on diversity, equity, and inclusion, as far as our educational director of equity, is that there's a 3 to 5 year commitment to do this. We need a strategic equity plan. We can't just say we're doing something, but there's diligent work being done. And I appreciate Ms. Cox-Blackwell efforts as far as that go. I will mention a parent did email us about a bullying issue and had a wonderful suggestion that a link to the forms for bullying be more accessible to parents. So I believe Mr. Longi talked to Guy, and we made that happen. So if you go to Enfield Public Schools now, you don't have to go through different clicks. That bullying reporting page is right there for you. And then lastly, let me get back to where I'm going. Sorry. Okay. I do want to talk about what Mr. Delaney said about education, and another speaker spoke about it. What I think is interesting is that we were put into an alliance district, and we have not been far from being an alliance district for a very long time. Our alliance status is based off of our socioeconomic status as a town. And, okay, so now we're an alliance district, and the teachers are continuing to work, and they're continuing to help as much as they can. But being an alliance district, they're telling us you need to do more. And how do we do that with our teachers? We're expecting more and more and more. And for as long as I can remember, with the exception of adding a team, because we had an enrollment that we needed to be aware of, we have maintained. So we have maintained during a pandemic. We have maintained during a time where the mental health of our students is alarming. Then dealing with their own mental health of living through a pandemic and having their own families. So I think that there comes a time when we really have to value what they're doing. And that whole idea of them being our kids, when they say that, the teachers feel that way. And this goes all the way up to central office. Like if you hear Miss Middleton talk, she calls them our kiddos. I think that we have to recognize, and I hope that people understand that we're asking teachers to do more and more, and there is more expected out of them, even trickling down from the state. There is a lot of pressure on teachers. So with that being said, Mr. Delaney, I appreciate your words tonight. It's been a year unlike I've ever seen. I'm very saddened by what I'm seeing nationally on how the teaching profession is being viewed. I think that there are a lot of young teachers that used to come in all fresh and ready to go are thinking, why did I do this? And those are the teachers we need and want in our classrooms. So me, myself, I recognize what you're saying. And I view education as an investment. And the students need supports, but the teachers need supports too. And the admin needs supports. And that's how I feel. And I can expand on that when we get to our budget presentation, but I wanted to take a moment during my board member comments to say that. So thank you. Moving on to unfinished business, discussion and action regarding the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Okay, do I have a motion to accept the superintendent's presented budget for the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Pickett, second by Mr. Hamry. Discussion? Any discussion? Ms. Pickett?
Sorry, I always got something. I think my theme for tonight will be I want more. Like the chair said, I think that it's time that we need to do more than maintain. So I will say that personally, I will support this budget, but I am disappointed that there wasn't a greedier ask. I'm disappointed that summer programming isn't included in this budget. I'd like to have some more explicit conversations about our partnership opportunities and how we can maybe maximize some of those partnerships. And I'd like to still have some conversation about staff compensation. I know we have to be careful with contractual obligations, but like the chair just mentioned, our staff are doing a ton. And for those staff who go above and beyond, who do the more than 5 nights a week, 5 evenings for family activities, I see those staff. I mean, there's teachers who email and say, what sports are your kids in? And we'll go to their game. Yeah. And so I just want them to know that I thank them and I appreciate them. And I do believe they should be compensated in some type of way for their above and beyond efforts. Through the chair to the superintendent, I do have a couple specific questions that I just want to make sure I'm clear on. One is around costs associated with more capital type improvements. So things like school security efforts or building and grounds type stuff, parking lots. Is that in the budget or that's on the town side?
Yep.
That's actually on the town side. So I tried to articulate that during my long-winded presentation 3 weeks ago. Recognizing that you in particular, others have asked for me to be a bit more selfish or greedier in the request. But I also have to be realistic that our town supports us not just with what our operating budget is, but also through our our capital improvement fund. So not just the physical structure, but to keep the lights on, to keep the heat working, to keep our buildings clean. So buildings and grounds are not our employees. Custodial is not our employees. And we recognize that there's a large chunk of money that, regardless of, she can give us everything in a 10% increase, but then we have no electricity next year. So there's a balance. So that's why it's important, as I go through this process, I do it in tandem with the town manager.
Perfect. I
with
appreciate
an expectation of, so when you talk about partnerships, like, it starts with the two of us. And we spent 6 hours today talking about stuff for other reasons, but this was part of it. So it does happen quite often.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And I think for me as a resident, the importance of understanding what's in our budget and what's on the town side of budget. So when it comes to those bigger budget conversations, where do we need to press for, things that we might want to see or hope to see? So thank you for clarifying that. And then the last thing that I just want to ensure, as you were very clear in our budget presentation, it's really more of a sustained budget with just the inflation kind of cost or contractual changes that were included. My wonder is, I know there's lots of federal funds that are disappearing, and I know we've invested a ton, and I just want to know if those efforts that we use federal funds for are sustained in this budget.
Yes, that's why we didn't necessarily. You may not be seeing the headlines of other communities about we're asking for a large number, but that also includes, and I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. Again, working with that partnership with the town and making sure, and having a great business manager, and I always give Lorraine all the credit, but Lori LaRusso and who handles our grants is an amazing person at her job, knowing where we can offset some of the costs that would ordinarily fall to the board's budget with some of those one-time infusions in the fund. So we're stretching those out into next year. The cliff is 2025. So we're doing everything we can to absorb as much as we can till we get to that hard cliff. We're in a better position than some others were, but we didn't spend it all on the minute we got the checks.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Hamry?
So right out of the gate, I do support this budget for a very simple reason. It maintains the programming that we have right now that's getting our students back on track after the last tumultuous 2 years. I do believe that it would be nice to have extra, sure. But I also know that what we ask for now, we may not get when the town council goes over the budget. So being as optimistic as I can, but knowing the history of budget discussions over the years, once it leaves the Board of Ed and goes to town council, we may not get all that we're looking for there. So if we get what the ask is this time, I'm good. Keeping in mind that this budget has a roughly 4% increase, and as Superintendent explained, others have had double that request. And in some cases, I've been following these as much as I've been able to. There's been one town that had at least a double-digit increase in their budget request. So this is a demonstration of a responsible budget that does the best for our students, for our staff, for our community, for our families, while maintaining a very disciplined approach to the programming, to the planning, to the structure, with the caregivers in mind, those staff that are in place to be frontline for our students. I do want to say that in the email exchanges of this last week or so, there was a question that Mr. Ungar presented about the format of this budget, that it doesn't match the last year's and the year before that, and so on and so forth. And Mr. Ungar was good enough to present those in the email for us to review. I did not go over everything with a fine-tooth comb because, as I mentioned during my comments earlier, I've got things to do in life. I've got other things that need priority as well. I did not notice anything discernibly out of place in the formats between last year's and this year's. We were given plenty of heads up that this is going to be a different look for this board to consider, and it's for good reason. We have a different situation than we've had in the years past. And I believe that the format for this year is a benefit to our families, to us, because it is a more streamlined and simple process. It doesn't get down to how much staples cost at Eli Whitney, and we don't really need to know that at this level. we have a budget that is, again, maintaining. There's nothing that's been taken away. We're not adding anything additional. It's a budget that's going to provide for the continuation of the programming and the education available to our students. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I have some discussion. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. So when we were here at our last board meeting, during that board meeting, we received an email at that point from Assistant Superintendent Longy, which was providing the members of this board the budget. Okay, this was our first look at this year's budget. So I remember at that board meeting, I had asked if I could get a hard copy of the budget, because I had an expectation that we would be provided with at least the same level of detail that would have been provided last year's board, the year before's board, the year before that's board, what they all received. Now, I understand that there was going to be a different format, that the budget would be provided into a different format, okay? And it would be a color-coded format for different categories, and that's fine. And I have no issue with a color-coded format if it helps with efficiency and so forth. But when I opened the email later after the board meeting, had a chance to look at it, I saw what was previously to other boards close to 70 pages of budget with, financial support documentation, backup, and so forth for the numbers of each category. We were provided with 5 pages, and frankly, I was shocked to see just 5 pages, which by the way was a budget summary, and I said it was a pretty good budget summary. But it really didn't break down the details of what it was summarizing.
So, Mr. O'Gary, this is
Mr. Hamre, you have to let him finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, it didn't break down or provide the level of detail and cost expenditures that had been provided to our earlier boards. That was, I'm speaking for myself here now, that was my expectation. I had fully expected that I would be seeing that level, at least at a minimum, that level of cost detail, okay? But that wasn't the case. So with that, I think have it's close to 50% of every taxpayer dollar goes to supporting education here in Enfield. We're talking $75 million, right? And I believe that I have to do a certain level of due diligence, that there's a certain level of fiscal responsibility and obligation to our taxpayers just to go through the budget, take a look at it, and be sure that everything looks in place. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying, that I think that the budget, that there's something wrong with the budget. I don't think, to me, 3.96% seems like a fair and reasonable number. I know it includes the salary increases and so forth, but in order for me to do what I consider to be at least a responsible due diligence in analyzing the budget, we were not provided with enough data to do that. And so because of that, I can't support the way that the budget has been provided to us because of that. 3.96 to me seems reasonable, but the expectation that I have, and I think that we need, is that we need to be able to more closely look at where our tax dollars are being spent, exactly where they're being spent, because there could be, by not having that level of detail, we couldn't even identify any opportunity for cost savings anywhere. Should there be something that would be obvious in our analysis of the budget. So because of those things, I can't support this budget. Thank you.
Mr. Hamry, before I turn the microphone over to you, being that this is a maintained budget, we only have 2 places to cut, and that's teachers and programs. That's it. We are bare bones in this district. That's the only place the cost savings are going to come. So it's going to be teachers and programs. Mr. Hamry?
Thank you. And I apologize for interrupting, Mr. Ungar, but I want to just point out a couple of things. Again, as Chair mentioned, same budget, same programming, same things. We were given heads up at least a month in advance that this is going to look different, that we were going to be getting a budget that is formatted differently, that it's not going to have that detail. We were specifically and explicitly told that we were not going to have the minutia that the previous budgets have had. That was, you can shake your head, but that's exactly what we were told.
No, okay, thank you.
But I can hear you, so you are saying a word. So the fact of the matter is that we have a budget that is, as it was presented in advance, that we were going to be getting something different that doesn't get down into the minutia of what it costs to put paper in the machine, in the copiers at Prudence Crandall. We were given that expectation. Now, I've been in the budget, and I've been on this side of the room. I've been in the audience for past budgets. This is the second budget that I've been involved with on this side of the dais. I fail to see anything that's missing. That would make this a budget that doesn't deserve support. And I appreciate you and understand and respect your decision to not support it. But I question what your motive is for wanting to get down into the minutia. What is it that you're looking for within the budget that you feel is going to be worthwhile to discuss in cutting, whether it's staff or programming? I would welcome an answer at this point.
Mr. Ungar?
Yeah, thank you. So to address your point, it was stated by the administration, the superintendent, that the budget would look different. Okay, that there would be a different format, but I do not recall anywhere where it said that we would be getting less than what we had before. Okay, and so when I hear that it's going to look different, I just didn't know how it was going to look different. Okay, but I knew it was going to look different, but not how it was going to look different. Okay, so if at that point it was said that, oh, by the way, we're not going to give you the level of detail that was provided to you earlier, I would have certainly raised the question, well, why not? Why aren't we going to be provided with the same level of detail that was provided to the previous boards? So, so that's addressing that. And I think that we have a responsibility to the taxpayers of Enfield to look at that. There could be opportunities in there for cost savings, but I think we should at least have knowledge of where those dollars are going as a board. I think that's a responsibility that we have to the people who elected us, to those people who pay taxes and in this town. And so that's just my position. Thank you.
With due respect, you didn't answer my question.
That's fine. We have other board members, and then we'll move the vote. Mr. Ryder?
Yes, so I just want to be clear to Mr. Ungeier's points that we were initially on one day given a 5-page summary of the budget, and then shortly thereafter given another 35-page budget, which broke everything out. And when you were speaking a few moments ago, you had said boards in the past got 70 pages, but in your email to the chair, you quoted that in 2021 we got 47 pages, and in 2022, 53 pages. So I don't know where the 70 came from. Once again, I find you to be an unreliable narrator of the truth. So basically, we did get everything that we've always gotten. It may not have all come in one email. And then we explained to you in leadership how you can get the grant information that you showed us was given in a previous year. So we explained how that comes from finance updates from the finance team and from Dr. Calnan and from Lorena. And you were asking about staff. And as Mr. Drezek has said on countless opportunities. This does not affect cutting or changing the staff headcounts or our programs. So you could then do the math and say if there was 81 employees in a specific building and there are no changes, we will remain with 81 employees in that building. So at best, I guess we could just help you find all these things. But I think that you are painting a picture of something that just is categorically untrue. So that's all.
Ms. Cushman, then Ms. Pickett.
We have as a caucus discussed this at great length, and so I'm not going to repeat a lot of what Mr. Ungar had spoken. And it's true, although we had heard that the new budget format, that there would be a new budget format, it was never plainly stated that the new budget format will no longer provide a detailed breakdown of spending.
Which we got.
And it may, what we feel like, and even the later document that came, that was only after Mr. Ungar pressed for an even greater budget than just the 5 pages. And it still doesn't offer much. It's a summary, but not a breakdown. And if it's there, why not just provide it for us? Like if it's already there, it's not, we're just asking for it to be provided. We're not trying to be accountants, but this is a very large budget. And so we believe that on behalf of our community, that we do have an obligation to be fiscally responsible and to be able to see how things are being spent. And we recognize that precedence often comes up with our board. There's a high value on precedence. And so our concern is if it's passed, if this current budget is passed with very little detail, it would set a precedent of what could be expected in the future.
Ms. Pickett?
First, I want to thank you, Mr. Drezek, because I think I asked a little bit for a different format personally, because we had gotten so much information from Ms. Middleton's data presentation, and I really wanted to understand how our budget supported the needs of our students. So actually, I appreciated the format because I think it does a great job, A, demonstrating the intentional efforts between your planning and supporting students. I also learned a ton about how much we support with state-mandated programs and requirements that aren't funded by the state that we actually fund. So I think that was that level and your format was helpful to understand that. And I just want to clarify for folks that administration has been more than willing to answer questions, and the chair had clearly articulated what that process was going to be. I, as you can tell in every meeting, have 8 million questions and received a response, and maybe not as full a response as I was hoping for some of my questions, but there was a response for every question. And so I want to thank you for your responsiveness to that, and to the point of possibly not being able to respond to what my colleagues down the row here are looking for. Is we have a detailed budget that has common spending categories. My wonder is, what level of information are you looking for, and what qualifications do we have to determine as far as those nitty-gritty line items, what our role is in determining those, and that these numbers come from somewhere. So I fully believe that the salary line, I know there's probably 8 million other spreadsheets that are attached to that line item that are being pulled from documented numbers. So I just wanted to share that I appreciate this format, and I believe that if we get into why we want more detail or what we're looking for, would be helpful to better understand.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Mr. LeBlanc?
So I think there's just two different opinions on what the board's responsibility is when it comes time to overseeing the budget. And personally, for this being my 3rd time through, I'm just going to continue what was set in my experience with those 3 presidents. And it was always my understanding that the superintendent proposes a number, which is 75 million this year. And if there were areas where we wanted to cut that, $75 million down or increase that $75 million, then we as a board would go back to our administration and our superintendent, and then he would go through the finer details and come back to us with a new number that defines what was either added or cut, given the board's purview at that time. So I'm voting strictly on the $75 million as a whole tonight, knowing that I'm comfortable with that number and without there being any additions or subtractions. And if I did have concerns, that's when I would go back to our administration and have our administration look into what could be added or cut. So I'm comfortable with that number.
Mr. Ryder, and then
Just-
I have.
Oh, no, just to clarify, 76.1. I just didn't want you to.
We had 75, 76. I'm happy with it either way.
I just wanted to be clear, 76.1, not 75. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is the reason why the format changed is because this is how we have to report now our budget with being an alliance district. Like, this is the way that we need to file our budget reports for grant writing. This is the way we need to file our reports as an alliance district. So that, again, is why it looks slightly different than the past. So thank you.
Okay, I have a few comments based on what the.
I don't know if you want to go last, but I think Jean wanted.
Oh, Jean, did you have something to say? Of course. Go ahead, Ms. Acree. I'm sorry, I missed you.
I would like to thank Mr. Drezick, though, for his hard work on this budget presentation. But I do feel that it would have been helpful to see more details in a budget book, if that was possible before the board meeting, just of a better understanding of how funds are appropriated, you know, in the school district. And also, Madam Chair, may I ask Mr. Drezick, address him for a minute? Is it possible in the future to have like a meeting with the superintendent and the board before the board meeting to give us, like, you know, more information? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know about the format that we had to follow this year and so on, but like in the future, just superintendent, deputy superintendent, whatever, and the board, and then you can really present in detail what you are proposing for the next year. Maybe that would have helped me.
Ms. Acree, at any time, if you needed more information or you wanted a meeting, all you have to do is reach out to me, and we could have set something up. A few years ago, when board member Salazar and Ms. Costa were here, they had quite a few questions regarding the budget. So we were able to have a board meeting so that their questions could be addressed. They were new to the budget process. So at any time, you can always reach out to me if you want more specific information or to relay your concerns as to how the budget was presented.
Right, because then I feel if that had happened, if it was possible for that to happen, then we wouldn't have this, you know, some people want it, some people don't. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, I appreciate you sharing that. I do. Thank you so much. But in the future, if you are just feeling that you need more information on something, you can always reach out to me, and you know, we can make something happen or get you the answers. I just have a few comments to make based on, you know, all the board members' comments about the budget, and then we're going to move the question. I think that's what I actually wrote it down, and then you said it. So if a board's going to cut a budget, tonight it was proposed, or 2 weeks ago it was proposed, 3.96. The board isn't going to tell the superintendent, I think you need to cut X amount of teachers in this grade. We would cut the budget. We would say, okay, we're only going to give approved 2.96. At that point, Mr. Drezick would then go to its teachers and programs. At that point, he would then have to meet with the principals, and then literally they'd have to look at the classes and say, how can we merge 27 kids or 25 kids or 23 kids into these other classes, because we're going to have to let this teacher go. what is the percentage? What is a 1% equal? Is it 700?
It's about $730,000.
Right. So then you're going to start cutting teachers. And if a teacher makes $50,000 and you're going down a whole percentage, you're cutting a lot of teachers. So it can be in our purview to reduce the percentage, but it's not in our purview to go line by line to say where we think cuts should be made. That is not our decision. If for some reason the town council only supports a percentage increase, again, that'll go back to Mr. Drezek, and Mr. Drezek will have to work with administration to find out where he can actually make those cuts, because we don't know where things could be combined. That would definitely have to come in a partnership with Mr. Drezek. What's interesting about a maintained budget is I feel like the teachers are probably like, okay, we're maintaining. Because it's scary to think that everything you've gone through up till now, your job could be on the line. And I think part of the reason we're able to get through the budget that we have is, to Ms. Pickett's point, is when we got all that money from COVID, I remember Mr. Drezek saying, the money isn't going to last forever, and any changes I'm going to implement are going to be sustainable changes. So I think that's important, because if you're looking around to see what other districts are doing, they're painting a different story right now. I just kind of want to go over the timeline. So on January 24th, we received a hard copy via email from Mr. Longi. I didn't know that more information was being requested until February 6th. The next set of pages was emailed from Mr. Drezek to us, the 35 pages, Mr. Okay, which broke down the schools. And then February 9th, it was requested by a caucus to receive the same type of budget we had received previously. And then on February 10th, we received the email from Mr. Drezek. All I want to say on that is when we last left here in January 24th, we actually had an extra week in between our meetings because January was a long month. And I felt that the 3 weeks in between was enough time to facilitate questions or ask for more detail. If we were to wait until February 28th to approve a budget and we approved it for less, our budget is due March 1st. So waiting until February 28th, what if there's a major blizzard? We can't get here. So I had asked the board members to do their due diligence so that we could be voting on the budget tonight. So with that, can we move the vote, Kathy?
Do we have to make a motion to move the vote, or we just vote?
We already made the motion.
Perfect.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes, 4.
Mr. Ungary?
No.
Mrs. Acree?
No.
Dr. Kalnin?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
No.
Mr. Hamry?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
4.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Moving on to item 11, new business. Item A, discussion and action regarding the fiscal year 2023-2024 calendar. Mr. Drezek, remind me, do you talk about it first and then we make the motion?
Yes, just a reminder that the board has to adopt the calendar. There are some things that I have to do before I can present you a calendar, and that is I have to consult with our teachers and administrators union per their contract before I can make a recommendation to the board. Ultimately, the board decides the calendar. There's a few things that are different this year. It's actually the second year in a row that we are able to start before Labor Day. Because that was some contractual language that the teachers union worked with us to remove. So the benefit of next year is our first day of school would be on August 29th with PD starting on August 23rd for staff. So the 23rd and 24th would be PD for staff. And then the benefit of that is it's a 4-day weekend for our staff members, and then they come back on Tuesday and we have kids. And then it's still a short week for everybody prior to Labor Day. The benefit of that is it gets us out as our 181st Student Day of June 10th. And the benefit of that is don't get used to this year, folks. I don't want to say it out loud, so I'm not, but it's going to happen. And one of the things that we have to consider is how many days we build into the calendar in the event of inclement weather, whether it be we've had days where it's tropical storms, not just necessarily just winter storms. So we also have to be cognizant that we've got days built in something that's changed this year. It's actually in the current year, but it depending upon whether or not we're in school is Juneteenth is now a federal holiday. So that we have to add an additional day to that. So if we get beyond 7 days, it's really moving your last day of school to June 20th. So trying to balance making sure we have enough snow days built in, and we don't want to keep our kids. We got to remind you can't have kids legally in school past June 30th, which gets into canceling April breaks. The other thing, and I want to thank Kathy for this because she's really the one who puts this all together. This is a weird year when it comes to April break. We're about split, and she polls all of the districts. So there are some that have the week of the 15th. There's others that have the week of the 8th. What I've always tried to do is recommend to line up with the districts, Connecticut districts, where the majority of our staff members live, so that they don't have childcare issues if their own kids are off that week. This year is going to be tough because it's kind of 50-50. So I stayed with the later one. I'm open to either one. It gets me having to work when my daughter's in school, but whatever. That said, that would get us out, obviously, and it would also allow the board to set their firm graduation date for Friday, June 14th. And then in the event there's inclement weather, then we have the weekend to play with, or ultimately back to the Monday. But you don't want to get into, like we did last year, if I can just bring everybody's attention back to Henry Barnard, having school on June 27th, I think was our last day. But you weren't there, but you knew what you're... Yeah. So, obviously we have the benefit of getting out earlier. So that's this has been approved to the level that it has to be approved by both of our collective bargaining units, and they're comfortable with this, and obviously it keeps our PD schedule and everything else aligned. So at this point, the board can make the motion to adopt it, and that will become the calendar. There is a possibility that things may have to change between now and next year, but that would come back to the board to make a revision.
Okay, so before I make a motion, because I want to make the motion correctly, go ahead, Mr. Hamre.
So this incredibly astute student that we have over here noticed that we have a typo in February. In the last week, we have February 27th twice. Yeah,
nice
see?
call.
So
we have looked at this so many times over. Is it a leap year next year?
She gets an extra, not study break, but something.
No, because I know it's a leap year, so I was
It is a leap year.
Yeah.
Why is there...
So look at that.
Good catch.
Yes.
So just to note, if you do make a motion, then on Wednesday, February 28th. It's a leap year, which I think is why it's formatted differently.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the calendar with February 28th as a Wednesday for the, where am I? For the school year 2023-2024.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hamre.
Seconded as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Pickett?
All right, so first I want to share that my comments are grounded in my personal beliefs, but also in our Board of Ed beliefs and policies around equity and family partnership. I'm incredibly happy to see Juneteenth acknowledged on our calendar, so thank you for including this. However, I think that we can do more. Through the chair to the superintendent, I'm wondering if before next year's calendar vote, if we can engage our Director of Educational Equity and the family advisory groups that you've started to make recommendations on our school calendar so that we can more accurately reflect our efforts around inclusion and diversity. For me, this could entail things like a courageous dialogue about what it means to have a school calendar that celebrates Christopher Columbus and Juneteenth, or reflection on the information we gathered from the parent survey and what would be most helpful around sharing academic progress and conferences. Personally, I would advocate for a spring conference to be scheduled, or more of a mid-year conference as November is early for some of these young families. It could include a discussion on when and how we determine half days. The week of November 20th is a nightmare for working families. I wonder how we look at patterns of attendance and adjust days off or half days. Basically, I'm asking that our district engages in intentional efforts to ensure our calendar is inclusive, respects the families, staff, and students, and meets our legislative requirements. For tonight, I'll approve it as is, but I'm asking for more. I have also provided some other ways that we can acknowledge the various cultural and religious holidays that our district does not officially observe as a tool to build awareness and potentially change practices in our schools. So again, I'm just asking Mr. Drezek before our next calendar vote that we get some feedback from staff and students and families around what this calendar might look like.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Any other discussion? Roll call, Kathy?
Mrs. Pickett?
4.
Mr. Ryder?
4.
Mr. Ungary?
4.
Mrs. Acree?
4.
Dr. Kalnin?
4.
Mrs. Cushman?
4.
Mr. Hamry?
4.
Mr. LeBlanc? 4. Madam Chair?
4.
Motion passes.
Item B, HB 5003. Mr. Drezek?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I shared with the board last week a copy of my testimony that I was speaking on only for myself, not as on behalf of the board. With regards to House Bill 5003, an act concerning education funding in Connecticut, the information shared in my testimony is my own, which is part of my responsibility as superintendent to advocate for proper funding of our district, not just here in Enfield, but also as proper funding with the ECS formula as a state. I included it, but I did get some questions from other board members. There is an opportunity if the board wishes to collaborate and send a letter of support for this legislation. Although the initial public hearing has passed, they still do accept written testimony. Unfortunately, by the time I was notified of the public hearing, as you mentioned earlier, Madam Chair, there was a 3-week gap in our board meetings. So calendar-wise, it didn't sit to get it on your agenda if you wish to submit testimony. I know, Madam Chair, you submitted written testimony. I know Mayor Crisati submitted written testimony, as well as Town Manager Zapo Sazuz submitted written testimony. The board has that option as well to submit a letter of support or whatever the case may be, whatever the board is interested in doing. I want to afford that to you. If there is an interest in doing that, we can help draft that for you and send that on to the appropriate committees if the board wishes to do that. Or you also have the right to just say, we agree with what you put. We want to endorse what I wrote. You have the right to do any of it, but I wanted to provide you with that opportunity in the event the board was interested in doing so.
Thank you, Mr. Drezek. Item C, policy revisions. Mr. Ryder?
Enclosed in our packets were 4 policies that were referred back to the policy committee. The members of the policy committee met most recently on January 31st and are recommending a first reading of the following policies. So we're going to take these one at a time. So the first policy, do I have a motion to accept the first reading of policy 5113.2 regarding truancy?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Pickett and seconded by Mr. Hamry.
Any discussion?
Roll call?
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Ungary?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Kalnin?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Hamry?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next policy, I would like to request a motion to approve the first reading of policy number 5141.4, reporting of child abuse, neglect, and sexual assault.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Pickett, seconded by Mr. Hamry.
Any discussion?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, any discussion? Seeing none?
Roll call, Kathy?
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Ungary?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Kalnin?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Hamry?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next policy, seeking a approval of the first reading of policy number 5145.511, sexual abuse prevention and education program.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hamry, seconded by Ms. Pickett. Discussion? Ms. Cushman?
I would like to amend the motion to remove from this policy the first part of the definition for sexual violence, maintaining only the last sentence as this would provide a clear, concise, and objective definition. As it's currently written, it's lengthy and confusing. So just to, what we're just looking for to rewrite as an amended part, if we could amend it even tonight on the floor, to simply use the last sentence, sexual violence is a wide range of sexual acts and behaviors that are unwanted, coerced, committed without consent, or forced either by physical means or through threats.
Okay, so would you like to make a motion, Ms. Cushman, to accept the policy amended to only include that last section?
So if I could, yes, make a motion for this policy 5145.511 to be accepted with sexual violence being defined utilizing the last sentence beginning with the word sexual violence.
Do I have a motion? Ms. Cushman made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ungary. Discussion? Ms. Pickett?
I think it's important to note that so when this first came up, I took a look a little bit more closely, and I understand the length of the definition, but I think it's really important to note that this definition includes two pieces. One is around the systemic oppression of sexual violence and what happens in social media, culture, the news, TV shows, and all of that, which is the first part of the definition that you just proposed to cut out. And then the second part of the definition is the individual acts of sexual violence. So the reason it's lengthy is because there's actually two parts of the definition. So if we'd remove that systemic piece, I'm concerned that we're actually losing a piece of what we do want to make sure that we're preventing and addressing.
Mr. Hamre?
I just want to say that everything that Ms. Pickett just said is exactly my concerns that were discussed in the policy meeting, and I appreciate that observation.
Mr. Ryder?
I'm also in support of the more robust definitions of this. It's too important of a topic to have a one-sentence definition. And this is something that we have passed as a group for a first reading, then it didn't pass at a second, went back to policy, passed again 2-1. It's back in front of the board. That's how things should work. But I am not in support of the amendment. I am in support of the policy as written.
Just for clarification, when we vote on this, is it going to be we are voting on the policy as amended?
Right, first.
Okay.
And then if that passes, then we just move along. If it fails, then we have to vote on the first motion. Yep. Any other, Mr. Ungar?
Yeah, so, I looked at this also in detail, and with regard to how it impacts our students, okay, and that's really what I'm looking at when I'm looking at this policy is how is it going to affect our students, okay? And in the beginning of this, the part that we're looking to strike here, it's talking about society in general, and it's very ambiguous, and I know that the interpretation of it in the future is going to be very confusing. Okay, so try to eliminate that and say, okay, how does it directly impact the individual at our school? And that deals with students, with teachers, and with staff. And for us to say in a definition that sexual violence is a wide range of sexual acts and behaviors that are unwanted, that they're coerced and they're committed without consent or forced by either by physical means or through threats is very specific and deals directly with the individual, which is really what this policy should be focused on. And it will be most helpful to our students and to our administration if we pass this just clearly defining that definition. But as soon as we offer in this societal level of things, it all of a sudden becomes unclear as to how it should be interpreted, how it's defined, and I don't see it as helping our system and our school system at all.
Ms. Pickett?
I just want to clarify, though, Mr. Unghire, that this policy is not about student violence, like how we respond to student violence. This is about our educational prevention and response programming. So I will speak as a parent and regarding the digital citizenship curriculum and media literacy. The importance of understanding societal oppression and sexual violence is part of students understanding what they consume and how it impacts them. So I'll speak as like a woman, for example, and the reason why I think it's important to include in school programming, young girls' body image concerns, and I'm going to look at my high school girls here for a moment. The reality of the pressures in social media to be thin, skinny, beautiful, look a certain way is a reality, and it's crafted intentionally that way. And this, like what this definition is addressing, is that through our programming, through our curriculum and education, we're going to teach students about that cultural systemic oppression. So I think it's important, this policy is about our programming, not necessarily about what sexual violence means in code of conduct and student discipline.
Mr. Hamre?
I just want to point out a very, very glaring irritant that the discussion is about narrowing down what is defined as a sexual assault. No. Why would we want to narrow it down and make it very specific what a sexual assault might be? Why would we want to cut out things that define what somebody experiences as an assault when we are not the ones that are experiencing that assault ourselves? It's nonsensical to want to minimize what could be defined as an assault when the definition is not a simple answer. There should be no reason to minimize, add a reduction of what someone on the receiving end of an assault experiences, even at a societal level. So I appreciate the conversation. Needless to say, I will not be supporting the amended version.
Mr. LeBlanc?
So open air question to the board, because I seen a lot of debate going on. If it was to remain, if we were to amend it to the point to the left of me, would acts and behaviors not define what you're looking for? So on an individual level, sexual violence is a wide range of sexual acts and behaviors. Acts and behaviors in of itself could be a wide range of circumstances that could be in relation to what you're referring to, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And I'm just, I would
not disagree with that observation, but again, narrowing down the definition, minimizing or limiting or somehow pigeonholing the definition of what it is, there are too many examples in history where a victim of a crime was not able to see justice because the definitions at the time were not what society kept as a law. So, no, this is this policy is about moving forward, not maintaining, not moving backwards. So I do appreciate that observation, but I still hold the point that I would maintain the policy as originally written.
Ms. Cushman?
When I'm looking at this, I'm looking for the purpose of the defining the terms for the policy. It's not changing anything within the educational program that's being presented. So in the sense of it's just for clarity for purposes of this policy, but within the program itself, that's this education program, there's still going to be this robust discussion that's tapping into everything that you're speaking of. But just for the purpose of keeping things simple and concise in this defining and the policy is what would be helpful.
Any other discussion?
Just to say that, we support the rest of the policy, okay? Everything else in the policy is fine. It's just that if we're going to be providing a definition under which, this is the heading, definition, if we're going to be providing a definition, it should be clear, concise, understandable, not subjective, okay? And so that's what we're trying to do. I think it would benefit our school system if we do that clear and in understandable terms. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take roll call on the amended policy, which would only include under sexual violence, the last few sentences that says, on an individual level, sexual violence is a wide range of sexual acts and behaviors that are unwanted, coerced, committed without consent, or forced either by physical means or through threats. I just wanted to be very specific. Roll call, Kathy?
We're going to keep on an individual level.
No.
Oh,
They're voting on.
I know, we're doing the amended vote first.
Yes.
Yes.
You got it.
Okay.
Yep.
But we're taking this word out?
Yep, so
Because Tina said, Tina included that.
Yeah, starting with sexual violence.
Oh, I apologize. I apologize.
Okay.
Yep.
I apologize.
So roll call on the amendment is Mrs. Pickett,
No.
Mr. Ryder,
No.
Mr. Ungary,
Yes.
Mrs. Acree,
Yes.
Dr. Calnan,
No.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Hamry,
Nope.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Madam Chair,
No.
amendment fails
Roll call on the motion,
on the main motion.
on the main motion.
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Ungary,
No.
Mrs. Acree,
No.
Dr. Calnan,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
No.
Mr. Hamry,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
No.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion passes.
Mr. Ryder?
Okay. Now we're going to discuss the potential passing of a first reading of 9325.2, Order of Business and Meeting Conduct.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Pickett, seconded by Mr. Hamry. Discussion? Sensing none, roll call?
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Ungary,
Yes.
Mrs. Acree,
Yes.
Dr. Calnan,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Hamry,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion passes.
Before I move on to board committee reports, I'd like to think that I felt like this policy revision was a conversation that we had ahead of time so that board members could learn processes, and felt that their amendment to the policy could be heard and be put forward at a correct time, that we could have a discussion amongst the 9 of us. Because this policy discussion lies with the 3. But I appreciate us working together so that everybody could feel that the process was understood and had a way to feel heard this evening. So thank you so much. Item 12, board committee reports. Curriculum committee, Ms. Pickett.
So first, I want to thank my curriculum colleagues. They met on January 30th. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend. And at that meeting, there was some course adjustments. United Sound is an official course. So we had that beautiful presentation, and to see that it's going to be brought in as an official course in the high school is just awesome. There was also some program of study changes, description changes to some music classes, and some course change days that were submitted by guidance. And I just want to make families and students aware that as the amount of time that you had to drop or withdraw from a course has gone from 20 to 14 days, and there's some intentionality behind that, and just wanted to make that very clear. There was also some adjustments to the Master Diploma course. Our next meeting is on February 23rd. Again, thank you to my curriculum colleagues for making that adjustment. Hard to have a lot of meetings on one week. And in that meeting on the 23rd, we will be reviewing TAG, an addition of an M course, which I can't wait to learn more about because I'm not exactly sure what that is. And a reminder that Invention Convention is on March 4th.
I just want to add to the curriculum committee, it was the perfect meeting to have both Ms. Acree and Mr. Hamry at the table. Their love of music definitely shined through. And a special thank you to Mr. Rapucci, who actually made the program of studies definitions much more robust as far as what can be expected, and just more clarifying. And I love the fact that he said sometimes we have kids that come here that never participated in band, and we're not going to turn them away. So I thought that was great. Moving on to the Finance Committee, Dr. Kalnin.
Excuse me. The Finance and Budget Committee met on February 6th. The 2023 budget was reviewed, and the original budget was $73,275,252. The end of year projection is now $79,296,576. And the main drivers of the difference were benefits, staff, and sped tuition. The nutrition services net profit as of December 2022 was $209,920.14, and the net worth was $1,521,264.15. With respect to the TAG investment, the value as of January 31st was $3,049,189.59, a gain of $171,143.09 since last month.
Thank you, Dr. Kalnin. Policy Committee?
Policy Committee next meets on February 21st.
The Leadership Committee met yesterday, and we discussed the budget. Joint Facilities Committee, the next, go ahead, Mr. Ryder.
Oh, sorry, no, I was going to say the next meeting's February 23rd.
The JFK Building Committee?
I don't have an update.
No update there. The Joint Security Committee?
The next scheduled meeting date is to be determined. We'll find out shortly.
The Enfield Mental Health and Wellness Work Group?
No report.
Thank you, Dr. Kalnin. The Enfield Cultural Arts Commission, Mr. Hamry?
So thank you. ECAC met last week, I believe it was, and we had a very good conversation to kind of develop a plan to really put some teeth behind the efforts to develop and maintain programming for ECAC within the community, and really develop it visibly with in a way that's still yet to be formed. So it was a good, productive meeting, and looking forward to seeing what the ECAC can do to get their image, get the image out to the community for all of the work that is both in development and has been discussed. I want to point out a couple of things in the area. First off, Enfield High School Lamplighters, they're working on their production of Sound of Music, and they've got a very talented cast that I've been privy to hear as I've been over there to help with set build. So looking forward to that when they bring that to the stage. Locally, we've got the Valley Repertory as Nuntuck is doing a production of Holidays in the spring, so watch out for that. We heard several things about the Opera House Players earlier tonight, not the least of which is their prom and tuxedo program, which is just amazing. And Sarah, that is spearheading that, is it demonstrates her dedication, and she's a fashion icon in herself. So that's it's a good source to be getting that together. And again, the Opera House Players concert happening later this month for Black History Month. The full title is the Black History Month Concert Celebrating Music of the African American Tradition. And I'm very excited to see what that is like. And it's tomorrow night, so I will be there. Excuse me, Thursday night. I hope to be there, and obligations are all over the place, so I apologize in advance if I can't make it, but I'm looking forward to trying. Congratulations to the Opera House Players for their Bridges of Madison County that opened up this past weekend, and it's got 2 weekends left. Very good production over there, and nice story, some incredible talent that you won't find anywhere else unless you go to Broadway, and these folks definitely should be on Broadway. They are working on a production of the Hunchback of Notre Dame coming up in the spring, and their production after that will be School of Rock, which is going to have, yes, please, and thank you. They're going to be announcing auditions for School of Rock in the near future. So if you're following these organizations, Valley Rep, Opera House Players, Lamplighters, find them on social media and be aware of everything that they're doing, especially, and it's funneling through the ECAC too. So all of these circles are starting to really intertwine and support each other, which is exactly what it should be. I do want to point out a couple of things that I do want to highlight. That I want to thank Councilor Santinella for being at the last ECAC meeting. It's been some time since we've had town council representing at the ECAC, and it's disturbing that we would have a town-appointed folks, town council representatives appointed to the be the liaisons for the Enfield Culture and Arts, and not show up for the meetings, and then vote down the budget for the ECAC. So I appreciate the fact that the budget has been approved for the ECAC, and it's a modest dollar amount. They're not seeking significant amounts of money to throw lavish parties. So I would implore that the town council liaisons do show up to these meetings and see the good work that they're doing themselves, and not take my word for it, and ask the questions. So appreciate the time to be able to talk about that. And again, thank you very much.
Mr. Trezek, I have a procedural question.
Sure.
I see on the agenda that we have executive session, and we are not supposed to go over 10:30 without a vote, or does that not apply if we're in executive session?
It does apply for executive session.
All right. So just to be safe, I can make a motion to extend the board meeting past 10:30.
You can. I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure.
No pressure, Dr. Jerry.
Read those numbers fast.
Item 13, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the regular Board of Ed meeting minutes from January 24th, 2023?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Calnan, seconded by Ms. Pickett. Show of hands.
Kathy, I abstain as I was not there in person.
I was just going to say, is there any? Item 14, approval of accounts and payroll. Dr. Calnan.
Okay, certification of expenditures. The Finance Committee met on February 6, 2023 to review financial statements for the month of January year-to-date and to examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded that there is nothing significant to report to the board. Motion, I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. I hereby certify that in the month of January, total expenditures amount to $6,907,526.69, broken down between payroll totaling $4,569,043.51 and other accounts totaling $2,338,483.18. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented.
So moved.
Second by Ms. Pickett. Show of hands.
Certification of grants and Head Start expenditures. The Finance Committee met on February 6, 2023 to review financial statements for grants during the month of January year-to-date and to examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded that there is nothing significant to report to the board. Motion. I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. I hereby certify that in the month of January, the total grant and Head Start expenditures amount to $685,601.37, broken down between payroll totaling $539,401.76 and other accounts totaling $146,199.61. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented.
Second.
Show of hands. Okay, item 15, correspondence and communications. We do not have any. Item 16, Mr. Drezek, we have a need to go into executive session. Okay, do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Ungary, seconded by Mr. Hamry. A show of hands. Okay, thank you. We will not be coming back on. Thank you.